12:04. So I'm going to get started here. I appreciate everybody joining in today. Today's call is a discussion of the SECOORA 2026 to 2031 IOOS proposal process. My name is Jennifer Dorton. I'm the Deputy Director with SECOORA. There are several other SECOORA staff on the phone today as well. Emily and Claire will be helping moderate the call. If anyone puts a question in the chat at the end of the slides, one of them will read that out, and we will try to answer your questions as you put them in the chat. But we will also have a chance at the end to unmute, and people can ask questions then as well. And finally, we are recording this webinar, so we will post it on our proposal development page, and folks can listen to it again later. So I'm going to get started and talk about our letter of intent and our water level request for qualifications opportunities. So as a bit of an overview about SECOORA, because I do know we have some new people who have not worked with SECOORA in the past, but we are a regional leader and a valued partner and a trusted source of information for the source for coastal ocean information in the Southeast. SECOORA works with our partners in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. We are one of 11 of the NOAA Integrated Ocean Observing System regional associations. And as I just mentioned, those 4 states, those are the states that we cover. We do cover the East Coast and West Coast of Florida. So we do have work that goes on the West Florida shelf as well as the East Coast of Florida and the Florida Keys. And we cover all the way up to the North Carolina-Virginia border. So we're going to quickly talk about our strategic plan and our organizational chart and a little bit about us. And I'm going to go over a little bit of the funding trends we have seen over the last 5 years or so. And then we will go into our 5-year proposal development process. So our strategic plan, we have 4 major goals. This is a 3-year plan, and it really highlights the areas in which we work in the Southeast. We really want to expand and broaden SECOORA's information and products so that we are even more relevant than we currently are to the Southeast. We want to meet societal needs by using a science-based observing system strategy to maximize impact. We do value science, and we are a operational observing system as a whole, and so we kind of have to meet both sides of that. I know a lot of the folks that have previously worked with us have large, say, for example, modeling components, but it's based on this observing system that SECOORA supports. And our observing ranges from HF radar to water level sensors to buoys offshore. We have a host of partners that rely on our data for operational observing, such as the Weather Service, as well as our science side. We want to expand and strengthen partnerships across the Southeast. You have not seen that in any higher regard than the current fiscal year when we had our partners. They were key in reaching out to congressional offices, explaining the need for SECOORA and why we needed to maintain our funding and the value that we bring to other entities within the Southeast. And then we also want to maintain our organizational capabilities. So we need to be able to implement grants, and we need to make sure that we have a staff that can support all of our regional partners as well. So that's a little bit about SECOORA's strategic plan. It is online, and folks can easily access that from our website. We have a pretty lean staff. We have our board of directors, and Deborah Hernandez is our executive director. She reports directly to our board of directors, but under Deborah, you'll see we have one side that's more operational. That's me, the deputy director, with our water level and web camera managers falling sort of under my side. And then we have our chief financial officer, Megan Lee, who works with our accounting team and our pre and post award grant manager and our event specialist. And then Deborah also works very closely with Emily Noakes, who does all of our marketing communications. So if you've been seeing a lot of our Facebook posts and LinkedIn feeds, Emily manages all of that and makes sure to keep folks informed of what's happening within SECOORA. We also have several committees. Those are in green on the left, and far right of this slide. So there's lots of ways for folks to get involved with SECOORA, especially within our E&O committee, Education and Outreach, and Science committee. Those are open, and we love getting new folks involved in our committees. So there are one-pagers available about SECOORA on our website as well. Each year we do produce one-pagers that highlight hot topics. Our funding is primarily through the NOAA Integrated Ocean Observing System. So most funding opportunities from IOOS we come through as a 5-year cooperative agreement. That's what we are writing a proposal for right now. That's why we're asking for our letters of intent and our RFQ responses, because we are trying to position ourselves for the next 5-year cooperative agreement. And again, that covers 2026 to 2031. So just broadly, SECOORA, we focus on data and research. I'm not going to read all of this because we are going to make these slides available in the Q&A and the webinar, so folks can go back and read everything. But we also do work closely with our project teams. When we talk about collaboration, it's not just with external stakeholders, it's also with our individual funded project teams. If anyone's been funded by SECOORA, you know you hear from us a lot. We like communicating your successes. We like broadening the impact of your work. And we really like making sure we're connecting our funded project teams to our communities as well. So we really try to bridge that gap. And we really foster innovation, especially innovation that helps with decision support. So we have a lot of work we've done over the years, helping with model development or product development that help with decision support, whether that's for a boater or a mariner or a community that's trying to address flooding concerns. So this one is our funding trends. And if you look at the bottom line, we are growing substantially since 2019. You know, we started at 3.39 million, and in 2025 we have roughly 7 million. But I will point out our core award, that top line, the very top line, that is our 5-year cooperative agreement amounts. If you notice, that number has not been growing substantially. We've really only brought in additional $200,000 roughly from 2019 to 2025. 3.1 million is what we have had in our core award the last 2 years. Supplemental funding does come into our core award, but that's really to support projects in other areas in NOAA that they send money to us to provide. So for example, the Gray's Reef OA sensors come from NOAA PMEL, but they flow the money through SECOORA to give it to the University of Georgia. So supplemental line, that's where you can see some growth there, but that's not money that we really dictate. So, but then the other lines are additional grants that we have received over the years. So there have been additional or more opportunities for SECOORA to bring in funding since 2022. We've been really seeing a sharp increase in the funding that's available, but roughly 3.1 million is what we look at typically in our core award. So that's sort of where we are on the funding trends. So now I'm going to jump into the proposal process. And so I'm kind of a quick shift gears here, but for the 26 to 31 5-year proposal timeline, in December, our board approved the 5-year proposal process, because in December, we really thought we would have this solicitation on the streets by April. But January 20th occurred, and things have gotten really slowed down and hung up. And so we are only now making the solicitation available. That was in July. At the end of July, we posted everything online where we released our LOI and RFQ solicitation. Today, August 12th, we're having our Q&A webinar. Our LOIs are due September 9th. Now, if you'll notice in that September block, it says IOOS Program Office call for proposals is released, and there's a question mark. We are currently starting this process without a notice of funding opportunity available to us to write this proposal to. So that is not unusual. In the past, we've had to start this process prior to the IOOS Program Office releasing the notice to funding opportunity. So in that situation, in that realm, this is not that unusual, but usually somewhere in this timeline, that document does drop. So we are hoping that it is going to come out in September. But we don't know that. As we have seen, a lot of things happening at the federal government right now are very slowed down compared to previous timelines. So we're hoping it comes out in September. And then we do anticipate that even if it comes out sometime after September, we anticipate that the proposals will be still due December 31st. That is typically when all of our IOOS proposals are due. I think every time this has been done for these 5-year proposals, they're all due New Year's Eve. So we're using that as our date that they would have to be submitted by here as well. So this is a very compressed timeline. We will have all of our subject matter expert reviews due in October, and then our comprehensive review panel will be reviewing the subject matter expert reviews and ranking the LOIs, and then we will have to start writing this proposal in November to have it ready for our board to review in December and hopefully submit before the Christmas break, because none of us want to work on New Year's Eve. So right now, as I said, all these slides will be made available. So I put the long version of the hyperlinks in here so you can easily click on them and get to the link, or copy and paste them into your browser. But you can see where our proposal development timeline is found. The LOI solicitation memo also, this is a direct link to it as well. So I'm going to start off, though, talking about the LOI, the letters of intent, and then we will cover RFQs separately, for the water level RFQ separately. So the LOI solicitation memo, we're going to go through each of these areas. I'm sorry, the LOI solicitation memo covers each of these areas. The scope of the solicitation is written there. The weighted review criteria for the LOIs is there. Eligible activities, i.e. things that SECOORA is looking to support, are all listed there. We also have to use budget targets. In the past, within the IOOS notice of funding opportunity, we had to write a proposal to 2 different funding levels. Usually it was a $6 million proposal level and a $3 million. And so what we would do is we would start with that $3 million level and say, hey, if we get $3 million, this is what we're supporting. But if we get $6 million per year, these are the additional activities we will take on. We're not exactly sure what this NOFO is going to look like this year. We anticipate writing a proposal for the $4 million range. However, the exact proposal targets will be identified when that NOFO is released. But right now, we're using $4 million as a budget starting point. So hopefully we'll know more next month, and we can revise this as needed at that time. So please note, LOIs are requested that focus on observing platforms and sensors, modeling, education, and outreach. All LOIs must be consistent with the 2026 to 2030 SECOORA Regional Coastal Ocean Observing System Strategic Operational Plan. It's a very long way of saying our RCOOS plan. And I forgot to hot link that, so I will do that, though, after the Q&A. We'll make sure we add the hot link to our RCOOS plan. Our RCOOS plan was just updated by our science committee, SECOORA staff, and a lot of our regional experts who helped us identify really where our focus should be for our observing system as a whole within the 26 to 2030 timeline, that 5-year timeline. And I highly encourage folks to look at that document, because your LOIs do have to be consistent with it. And we did a pretty good job, I would say, of making sure we've identified, our 3 main focus areas, and then the activities that are strategically important in the Southeast under each of those focus areas. And then also there are some current administration priorities. There are executive orders out about restoring America's maritime dominance and restoring American seafood competitiveness. So we don't want to leave those out. And to be honest, they do fall pretty well under our RCOOS plan. So they're not separate really from our RCOOS plan. Those EOs do kind of flow with our RCOOS plan. So overall, within the solicitation memo, we do seek proposals that are regional in scope or contribute to a regional scale enterprise. If you propose a sub-regional scale, if you end up proposing sub-regional scale activities, those definitely will be considered, especially if they complement or support our overall regional observing system. We do want to have measurable partnerships with end users. So we want to know that there are people that you're working with, whether that's individuals, other NGOs, state agencies, whomever, that this work also supports their needs. So we want to make sure that, you're providing value to, more than your own, say, research team. And you need to also make sure you address one of the SECOORA priority theme areas that are in our IOOS plan. This is coastal hazards and climate variability, ecosystems, or marine operations. Those are all pretty big areas. So as you look through that IOOS plan, you're going to see, for example, under ecosystems, there's a host of subcategories under there, from water quality to fisheries to, coral reef and ecosystem health. So these are pretty broad focus areas, theme areas with focus areas under them. This year, though, we do have something slightly different than we've done in the past. We want to see a sustainability plan because, as everyone knows right now, things are a little bit tricky when it comes to federal funding. So we want to know that you have a way to hopefully sustain this work and continue operations if you don't have funding from us. So, is there a way to take what you're doing and have others contribute to the funding of it? Or after the 5-year period is over, are you working to make sure that you will have funding coming in after year 5 to help keep this work going? So we do want to see a sustainability plan. And if folks have any questions on that, please feel free to answer them or write them into the Q&A or email them in. So assuming a $4 million budget for this year's proposal, observing gets half of that funding. So that's $2 million. You notice the grayed out area is for data management and cyber infrastructure. In the past, we've typically had a data management RFQ that came out before our request for LOIs. However, this year, with all the craziness that was going on, we were not able to get it out before the LOI request. So we are going to have a separate DMAC and product development solicitation that's going to be posted later in 2025. Modeling has about 10% of the overall budget. Community outreach is about 5%, and governance and management is about 20%, with DMAC making up that 15% that's not really allocated within the proposal currently. As in, there's no opportunity currently to apply for, but it is coming. All right, proposals can have up to 5-year period of performance starting July 1, 2026. You can write a proposal that only has a 3-year period of performance if you have a smaller project that doesn't need 5 years. That's perfectly fine. You do not have to apply for all 5 years. LOIs are due September 9th, and all LOIs should include a budget table. At the bottom of the LOI solicitation, you will see a worksheet, like just a small Excel worksheet. And you can see we're looking for just a very simple budget table. Right now, because we're looking at LOIs being due September 9 and a NOFO that is probably not going to be even hitting the streets until later in September, we're telling folks now you do not really need to submit your LOIs through your institutional sponsored programs offices at this time. I know most sponsored programs are not going to let you submit an LOI or will be very hesitant about submitting an LOI if there's not a notice of funding or an RFP available for them to link that LOI to. So at the moment, please just submit, and then if you are selected for funding, we will work with you to get all of your official documents. That includes a statement of work, budget justification, all of that through your sponsored programs office. So at the moment, treat your LOIs as sort of a application to participate. And if anyone has any questions on that, please don't hesitate to ask at the end. Okay, also new for 26 to 31. If anyone was funded as part of our 21 to 26 SECOORA funding opportunity, You have to complete a project assessment, three pages max. It is submitted as a separate document. It is not going to our subject matter experts, but our comprehensive review panel will have access to it. These are items 16 to 18 in the request for LOIs. In the LOIs, you'll see that everything's documented with line numbers, and this excuse me, and this project assessment follows line numbers 16 to 18. If you operated real-time assets or models, at least for the past 3 years of this funding that you've received, you have to give us your uptime stats. Most of you know what that looks like in your 6-month progress reports. But instead of giving us just a 6-month capture, you're going to do all 12 months. So that we're also going to ask for that based on our current funding cycle, which is July 1 to June 30th. Again, please ask questions if you're unsure what this looks like, but for most folks in your progress reports, you already report this. So instead of giving a 6-month time capture, you're doing 12 months. Okay, I'm going to breathe for a second here, and then we're going to shift gears to our water level RFQ. So this time around, we're soliciting requests for qualifications to identify contractors to install and maintain water level sensors in the Southeast. SECOORA plans to work with selected contractors to maintain high priority existing water level sensors and to install sensors in locations identified by SECOORA. Again, responses to the RFQ are due September 9. If you are planning to submit for water level, you have to submit your proposal under this RFQ, not under the LOI. So the anticipated budget value for water level is $250,000 annually. So when you thought about a few slides back when I gave you the breakdown, if we're targeting $4 million as our proposal value, and half of that funding is going to observing, that's $2 million for observing, and this $250 is part of that observing budget. So that's sort of an anticipated budget level. Now that will scale if we find out that the threshold for the RFP is $3 million, right? So all this will scale based on those percentages. So we're requesting basic estimates of per station cost. Right now, because we're not telling folks exactly where the stations are, those per station costs would not include travel cost. We're looking to identify multiple contractors to work across the Southeast. The RFQs are going to undergo subject matter expert reviews, and they'll also be passed to the comprehensive review panel as well. And then any selected contractor, we will talk to you and find out, hey, for example, if we want to deploy a water level station somewhere in Georgia, then we would negotiate a per station installation and maintenance cost based on that station location. So our big thing here is we want to make sure that you can install the stations based on SECOORA's SOPs, standard operating procedures, and those are all identified within this water level RFQ. Okay. Now we're going to go into how we're reviewing both the LOIs and our RFQs even. We will have subject matter experts that review all proposals. Every proposal that is submitted, every LOI and RFQ will undergo review by 3 individuals. We anticipate needing somewhere between 20 and 35 subject matter experts for this review process. Everyone that's selected to be a subject matter expert is non-conflicted. That would be non-conflicted members of our science committee. Our staff and our board are helping identify subject matter experts, and these could be anyone from other regional associations, Sea Grant staff, NOAA staff, non-conflicted staff from member institutions. So we have a range of folks that we generally work with to be our subject matter experts. All proposals will be reviewed by no less than 3 subject matter experts by October 3. So all the LOIs and RFQs are due September 9, and then we're going to try to get them all reviewed by October 3. So that's roughly a month turnaround time. The second part is our comprehensive review panel. This is the same process we used for our last 5-year award. Our comprehensive review panel will receive all of the subject matter expert scores for each LOI. These will be blinded scores, so they will not know who scored them. And then the review panel will meet in late October to review the LOIs and work through prioritizing which LOIs will be part of the SECOORA proposal. So this panel really is integral to helping us figure out how to make sure we stay consistent with our goal of having roughly 50% of our funds attributed to observing and 5% for E&O. For example, they help make sure everything is, fits our breakdown that we're looking for, but also we have that regional feel that we need. We're not going to try to put everything in one state, for example. We need to make sure we're focusing on the entire SECOORA footprint. And this comprehensive review panel really does help with that. That is the end of my talking. I feel like I've been talking a lot. Our Q&A summary is also available online. We have had a few questions that have come in via email that we have responded to and provided an answer, but then we captured those and made sure we made them available to everybody. So all questions and answers, we are trying to make sure that we post them online because they could be valuable to other folks as well. So again, if you've registered for this call, we can send you the slides after it's done, but we will also post the slides online. The Q&A summary is also online, and this recording will be online. So I'm going to stop there. Claire and Emily, can y'all see if anyone has put anything in the chat?
Yes, we do have one question from Brian Walker. Are proposals focusing on coral reefs considered regional, even though they are only in South Florida?
So in that respect, that a proposal specific to coral reefs, while not regional, is part of the work that we've identified in our IOOS plan. So coral reef health and is part of our IOOS plan. And since they are only in Florida, then yes, we would not discount that proposal.
Okay, so the next question is from Cliff Mers. Hi, Cliff. I am considering submitting on 2 complete coastal met and tidal stations. These sites consist of both water level capability, but also a full meteorological suite. So it would seem that an LOI submission is appropriate in this case, which would also contain personnel qualification detail generally found in an RFQ submission only. So basically, would an LOI submission be more appropriate or an RFQ submission, considering the water level site has the meteorological component?
It's still an RFQ. Submit that under the RFQ side.
Okay, so the next question is from Nick Shea. Is there any room for product development incorporating SECOORA data?
So we are going to have a separate data management and product development call. And Deborah, do you want to jump in on this one?
Sure. So great question. We're doing something new. We had hoped to be a little further along, but as many are aware, with the change in the availability of federal funding, the identity of SECOORA as an institution that provides things that people need is more critically important than it ever has been. So we are planning moving forward, as Jen said, to have a new solicitation that would enable us to ensure all product development is integrated directly with our data management system and branded as a SECOORA product. While we've so that will be the opportunity to propose new product development opportunities. Having products living in places that are separate from SECOORA does not help ensure the health of the organization. So that's the change we're making. Products will be integrated directly with SECOORA and our back-end data management system going forward.
Okay, so the next question is from Chris Post. If we propose specific new tidal stations, would we add that estimate to the RFQ or submit the RFQ and an LOI?
So for anything that has to do with water level, it has to come through the RFQ. We are not requesting water level to come through the LOI process. Again, when reading that water level RFQ, you'll see that we are looking for contractors who can install stations where SECOORA staff request stations to be installed. So just a little bit of background within our IRA funding, for example, we're working very closely with our Sea Grant staff. And the Sea Grant folks are really on the ground and helping us identify locations where there's gaps in water level data, where communities are being impacted by flooding, and where there are definite water level needs, and there's community support for those stations. So we are prioritizing those stations, and we want to make sure that through our core award, we can continue, like either continue supporting them, i.e. maintaining them, or installing stations that were not able to be installed under other awards. So SECOORA is keeping a list, and we're tracking where these stations are going to go, and we're going to work with contractors to install in locations that we dictate.
Okay, so the next question is from Luke Macaron. Does the previously funded project assessment need to be completed if the LOI is a new project or if the LOI is an extension of the previously funded project, or both?
If you have an LOI submitting that's totally for a new project, then you do not need to really submit the assessment. But if you are building on a project and maybe you're adding other functionality, or you're adding, a new task in there to previous work, then yes, I still think you do need to submit that assessment. Now, where you would not need to, you wouldn't have to do uptime stats for it. Luke, I do know your project. So in your case, you're not really doing uptime stats, but we do want you to assess how well your previous project worked and the value that you were able to provide based on that work.
The next question is from Eric Monty. Any update on the BIL funding for infrastructure? It could affect what he includes in the SECOORA LOI if he decides to submit a proposal.
Eric, please see your email. This one, because it's so nuanced, I don't want to start giving answers here because I think it's going to confuse the situation. So please see your email. I did email you back about that.
Okay, so Gary Zarillo asked, what is the IDC limit for the LOI budget?
Deborah, I know you've been on calls with the IOOS program office more recently. I don't, and I know there was some new grant executive order that came out. Do you have some thoughts on that?
Sorry, the short answer is no. I mean, I have a feeling your own academic institutions are following this more closely than we are. SECOORA's overhead is low, so as the prime, I think that helps us in this current environment. I can't tell you whether there will be, once the NOFO drops, some mandated cap on overhead IDC. I think we'll just have to wait and see.
The next question is from Nick Shea. Who does the quality control on water level stations so the data can be integrated into SECOORA products?
I'm going to stop sharing my screen only because I don't know that we need to anymore. So currently our water level providers are supposed to provide the quality control flagging for all their stations. They follow the CORTOD manuals, that is quality control for real-time data, manuals that are provided by the NOAA IOOS office. And I think I want to say, Nick, it's test 1 through 8 are required with the exception of climatology because that is so nuanced in some locations. And so all those flags come with the data and goes to currently Axiom Data Science, who manages SECOORA's backend data management system and provides the data for those stations. Where stations are installed, and it's SECOORA managing and installing those stations, then our water level manager works with Axiom to set up all the appropriate flagging. So they are getting quality controlled, and they are getting quality controlled to CORTOD standards. I hope that answered your question. If not, let me know.
So it looks like that was the last question we had in the chat, but maybe we could just give it a minute for people to think on it.
And
okay, we have one more question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say we can let people, you can unmute if you wanted, and people wanted to, raise a hand and ask a question instead of chatting it.
Yes. So this question is from Jonathan Leidig. Excuse me if I didn't pronounce that properly. Do you have a general estimate for the number of LOI proposals and funding ranges that you are expecting to select?
Poof, you ask a question I should have been prepared for. Deborah, I think last year, didn't we? Last year, excuse me. Well, last time we had roughly almost 35 to 40 LOIs, maybe?
Correct.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I think the largest subaward we've ever issued is for around 350 to 400K. Just to give you a sense of the scale of projects we're looking for. Hopefully that addresses your question.
Okay, so we have another question from Cliff Mers. From the questions reply earlier, it sounds like the water level RFQ focus is on contractor capabilities to later install SECOORA directed water level sites. What is the procedure for RFQ or LOI for existing water level and meteorological sites that funding would be needed for continuation?
So, Cliff, as was listed in the slide, we are looking for installation and maintenance. The maintenance cost could very well be for stations that are already installed. Under our previous award and through other funding, we have had stations installed in the Southeast. So some of those will be continued. So it's not just, the RFQ is not just for new by any means. It is also for maintenance of existing. So again, I would suggest go back and read the RFQ in detail, and then if you have some other questions, please do email me, and then those questions and answers will also be added to the online question and answer side. Online question and answer page, sorry.
This question is from Jay Titlow. Will we get a list of other vendors who may be interested in teaming up with other people?
Is this for water level, or is this the LOI, or both? We don't typically put out a list of who all is applying, mainly because most people apply on the day it's due. So we don't really even find out who all is applying typically until, like in this case, it'll probably be September 9th is when we'll start seeing the flurry of stuff coming in. That being said, we have worked in the past with our comprehensive review panel as they're doing all the reviews. They've looked at the proposals and said, hey, it'd be great if these two groups could team up and work together because they're doing very similar work, or they're proposing very similar work. So that may be something that comes out of that comprehensive review side. Deborah, do you want to add anything to that? Or did I cover it?
No, I think that's correct. We don't have a section of our Q&A. I don't know. Maybe it's something we could do. You can find on our website who's currently funded, because we post all our progress reports, and so that you can see at least folks who are doing work that we've funded in the past from going through the website. Yeah. I guess we could provide a place for people to sign up if they're interested on the Q&A page. Sorry, it's not a great answer, Jay.
We have a question from Brian Barnes. Can you elaborate on the quote SECOORA branding for funded products? This may be difficult for satellite-derived datasets, particularly if they are from non-public data vendors.
I'll take that one,
Yep.
Jen. As I mentioned, we're doing something new, so and we haven't figured it out yet. So, Brian, that's a great question and a great point. I'm sure there'll be exceptions. I will tell you that given the challenges with federal grant funding, I've talked to more reporters in the last 6 months than I have in the last couple decades, and explaining the flow of money from Congress to NOAA, to the IOOS program office, to SECOORA, to University of South Florida, so that people understand that what SECOORA does is valuable, gets lost in translation almost with the first acronym. So what we're trying to do is address that identity problem. But it may well be that some products will require a little different access and URL availability than what we're envisioning. But that's TBD. I would say if you have something that you want to propose once the data management and product development RFP is or released, please, respond, and we'll take it from there.
Anyone else have any questions? So I'm going to drop in the chat if I can. All right, I'm just in the chat. I've linked directly to the 26 to 31 IOOS cooperative agreement or proposal process. In the general information section, you can get to the review panel terms of reference, the letter of intent template, the weighted criteria for evaluation of LOIs, the water level request for qualifications, and you'll see on number 5, the notice of funding opportunity from IOOS is currently blank. So soon as we get that, we will link that. In the background information header, you will see where we have questions about the LOI and the water level RFQ are going to be posted, and there's a link to that Q&A. We will also try to go back and grab the questions that were asked today, put the answers to those in as well, and update that Q&A with information from today. Number 2, where it says there will be a webinar, a Q&A webinar, we're going to change that to, here's the link for the Q&A webinar. So if anyone wants to go back and listen to anything, they can. We do have the IOOS plan linked under background information as number 3. And our data management communication plan, our current data management communication plan is also listed. So if anybody has any questions about data management capabilities and how SECOORA ingests data or accesses data, that information should be in there. But if you end up needing to ask questions regarding data management, feel free to email those. And I'll just drop in anyway, the IOOS plan is in the chat as well. But most every document we've talked about today can be found on the main proposal development webpage. Nick Shea.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Nick.
Question might be outside the scope of this, but is there still a move, assuming that they still want this kind of work going on in DC, to filling gaps in our various footprints around the US? Or is that sort of now secondary or tertiary compared to this LOI, for example?
I think I'm going to let Deborah take this one because she definitely has more communication with the IOOS program office and the IOOS Association.
Hi, Nick. Great question. And I think if I could predict what's going to happen on the federal scene, I'd be making a lot more money somewhere else. But we don't have the notice of funding opportunity. I would stay moving money through NOAA anyway, and my sense is many other federal agencies is still very chaotic, and processes change as quickly as daily. The program has very broad support, and but I think the trend for federal funding is maintaining level funding is a win. And so with that, this is a competitive opportunity that looks across all the things that Jen talked about. And depending on the reviews, projects will be selected. And yes, some are likely to continue work we've been doing for almost 2 decades now, but I would assume some new stuff would be selected as well. In the past, stuff that was new has gotten support because the budget's grown over the 5-year period, and we've had the capacity to grow. And while things seem very different right now, I'm going to remain hopeful that that would still be the trajectory long term.
Thank you.
Hope that, yeah.
So any other hands raised? All right, so Emily, I think, yeah, you did. Emily just did on the 1248 chat, told everyone to feel free to send any additional questions you may have after we leave this call to communications@secoora.org. Several of us monitor that, so you should get a response pretty quickly. Additionally, anything that comes into that, we will take that question and the answer and post it to the Q&A page as well, so it's available for everybody to see. So I encourage folks to maybe check out the Q&A page. You may already get a couple questions answered through there, and if not, though, feel free to email us. We are happy to take any questions you may have. You're welcome, Eric. And on that note, everybody gets about 7 minutes back, but I will say one question that has come up multiple times. So I'm going to go ahead and answer it one more time here, though, is folks ask if they could submit more than one LOI. And the answer is yes. If you have several projects that you think, hey, this might be great for SECOORA, you can submit more than one. So that one has come up a couple times. Well, thank you, everybody, for participating. Look forward to seeing your proposals. And yeah.